so Casey's manning the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. I am not on the chat. I am excited to present this. Franson, since I have you on my screen right now, can you see this screen, Adventures with Backpacking?
Yes, the slide.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I'm so excited to be here to present my experiences with the backpacking class and after the class and what I use. I am not an expert. You're going to learn from experts. I'm just here to share my experience. I was there in your shoes just a few months ago. So I have a great appreciation for the class and for what you're about to experience, although it wasn't on Zoom. Which no way means that you're going to have my experience by any means, but I hope to share some perspectives of having been in your shoes, kind of. And my experience has a lot of photos, because photos sometimes, like our first language, tell good stories by pictures. So to give you context, for me to come into the backpacking class, I came to the conclusion that my backpacking experience could be summed up kind of through the lens of the shoe, the view, and really having no clue. Because before backpacking class, red shoes were my thing. It's kind of my bling. I'm a speaker. I wear them to remind myself and others, like Dorothy, we already have what we need inside. So that was the shoes that I wore before backpacking class. The view that I had before backpacking class was basically from Badger or from the window from a car, like that view on the right hand corner where I camped with somebody's wood pile, which is a long story, but it was a beautiful view. And I also took some short hikes around Badger locally and in Arizona. And who else hikes Badger here? You could just wave or put in the chat, I hike Badger, right? These are some experiences on Badger. And the third part is no clue. This is me before backpacking class. So the upper left-hand picture is, I didn't know it, but that is sort of my idea of a backpack, was carrying my grandkid on my back. And you'll see in the lower picture, my water supply system was basically some kind of plastic water thing. And the picture on the right is basically, I had no gear, empty hands, no gear. I was pretty clueless. And here's what I realized is that a new pair of shoes can change your life. And when you use these shoes, it can also change your view and maybe even your perspective. And my intention came about from, I don't really do New Year's resolutions per se, but near my birthday every year, which is the end of February, I do this, I take time out and kind of recalibrate my life and set some intentions. And almost 3 years ago now, we're into almost April, but a little over 3 years ago, I was recalibrating and I noticed that I had this gap in my life of spending time outdoors. So I set the intention I wanted to do more hiking and specifically backpacking. And I asked several friends and I didn't really get any bites. And I was pretty focused on my business at that time. And I did some hiking, but not really backpacking. And so I didn't really get much momentum, but I got to tell you, it was fueled, this need to get outside was fueled by my Cheryl Strayed moment. Now I don't have a picture of the gallery, but who knows what I mean by a Cheryl Strayed moment? Anybody? Cheryl Strayed? Nope. I can see a head shaking no. Anybody? Cheryl Strayed? Oh, okay. It's hard to see everybody in this setting, like in the class. I usually get a bunch of heads that nod. No? Okay, I can't see in this class. So Cheryl Strayed was the gal who wrote the book, and then it later became a movie called Wild. Have you heard that? Now you know what I'm talking about. Cheryl Strayed. She was in the movie The Wild. And she had kind of this hit the wall, brick hit the wall kind of moment like I did a few years back. And I was working with a coach and she said, you know, what's going on? What's missing in your life? And it was the mojo, you know, of getting balanced and being in nature. And so my why for getting into nature was pretty solid because I was missing this. And you know how that phrase goes, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, somehow that's where I found out about this class, this backpacking class, and I decided to register for it. But I took it by myself. Is anybody in here taking it by themselves? We've got a lot of people that are jumping on together. So anybody by themselves taking it? I can see your hands. Oh, there's a digital hand in there too. I don't know where it is in case you could read it, but Oh, there's so many non-video people. Okay, so I'm gonna, whoa, close that screen back down. Yeah, well, the cool thing is, like Casey said, that you meet a lot of friends and cool people, and it will be weirder to take it in Zoom, and even weirder when we meet in person, especially for those of you that have no screen. You know, you have your video block right now, but we will get to meet other people. But it was really the best decision that I made in 2017. I think it changed my life, and I actually think that it probably saved my life, because I had a pretty bad Charles Strayed moment there. So just after the class, I was talking to my best friend from Arizona, and she had posted something. I'm going to do 52 hikes this year. And it went to, do you want to hike the PCT, you know, which is the Pacific Crest Trail? And Casey, if you message me, you might need to text me, because I don't have the space for the comment group. Although I do want to open it up, so I'll find a way. Sorry about that. Anyway, so my girlfriend and I started to plan. So she did the 52 hikes in a year. She got the book that is part of this backpacking class. She got the book, and basically I would call her after every class and teach her what I learned. So I really learned a lot, and we started to plan 3 backpack trips together that year, and I'll tell you how that went later. But I was the essential beginner, and my start was not that sophisticated. I had the wrong shoes. I did only day hikes. I like to go to places where there were bathrooms close by. I don't know about weather and Casey's comment. I was totally unequipped and really big dreams. So does anybody relate here to that story, coming in as a beginner? I mean, maybe not the red shoes, but maybe not equipped and not a lot of experience. So maybe anybody think of the PCT, hiking that Pacific Crest Trail? I would love to see that in the chat. How many people are interested in that? And I want to know where my chat is. Oh, there it is. Okay, now I got you. I love to someday. Yeah. Oh, we are. Oh, yeah. Or parts of it. Yeah, definitely parts of it. I was thinking of doing parts of parts. So yeah, well, I'm going to share with you. Oh, I'm in. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, excellent, Terry. 5 miles of it. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I crossed a little tiny bit of it last year and took a picture and sent it to my girlfriend from Arizona, and she really freaked out, and then she realized it was a lie. But I'm going to share a little bit about my experience tonight with the class, including my favorite parts of the class, including, I have no screen, including some of the things that I just lost my screen. Please hold while I access something that works better. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Wait, did Casey say we were all newbies? I'm a Zombie. I'm on Zoom a lot, but this is a different kind of setup that we have. So now can you see my screen again? Amber, give me a thumbs up if you can see that screen, because I can see you, Amber.
Yep,
okay.
We can see your screen again.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, it's a test. It's an adventure. All right, so
I was just saying, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying I can totally relate too, even though I had a lot of experience in the Army. It just took me years to break all those habits of bringing 2 of everything and having 50-pound packs.
Yes, I'm going to talk about my 50-pound pack or 100-pound or whatever too. Yes. All right. Well, I'm going to share some of my experience of the class, including my favorite parts and things that I wished I would have paid more attention to. So that's what I'm hoping that I can share with you. Casey alluded to the graduation, and it's in the handouts that we're going to offer some graduation trips. So I'm going to talk about our graduation trip, and then last I'm going to share kind of my progression of what I've tried, or including like adventures and misadventures, successes and lessons learned. So first I'm going to talk about the class. Backpacking itself, I think, is the perfect metaphor. It's a journey, because it really takes a mindset, it takes a skill set, and then you got to get off your ass. I hope I said that fast enough. There's really,
Danette, if you don't mind me interrupting, we're looking at your outline now. We don't have your PowerPoint showing.
I really don't really want you to have my outline. Thank you though. Let me stop sharing and share the right screen. Oh, I know what I did. Totally. Now what do you see, Casey? Thanks for.
Now we see your desktop with trail on it.
Okay, that's the
With
trail I'm
perfection.
on.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. So what did I learn? Backpacking is the perfect metaphor for it's a journey because there is no one right way, that there's a lot of smart ways to do things. And it's really a process. I like to think of progress over perfection. I know we hear that a lot, but I think of each trip as a lesson. And each hike is like a lab, like a learning in action. The class was organized very well. It may be kind of wackadoodle a little bit this year, but the class is organized and delivered very well by some amazing, adventurous volunteers who are really skilled and know what they're talking about. I think the book is excellent. I have a lot of highlights. I was looking in here tonight. I wished the gal that I went on a hike with read it more and was in these classes with us. It gives a lot of background and details for a lot of different things that happen. But one thing that I noticed was that it's not like a school book, right? All the chapters don't line up with each section, so you're going to move around a lot in it, and there's a lot of moving parts. So I think there are no dumb questions, and to reach out to Casey anytime you have a question. You have his email, you have him on chat here. So if you have questions about the flow of the class, just reach out and ask questions. The second part of the class is that the instructors made it so fun. The Shunies, they taught and organized when I was there and left, but there's Casey and Steve and Eddie and Sarah and Dana. And I can't think of all of them because I haven't met all the ones that are in it now, but the class is spread out over a lot of different people. So you get the opportunity to learn new things and meet new people and learn what their lessons along the way have been as well. And their enthusiasm is totally inspiring and contagious. And they taught the content really well. They made it real. They're people from the field, not necessarily professional speakers by any means or trainers, and none of us Zoom experts. But the bonus was that they were real people showing real stuff. The challenge that was a challenge for me was sometimes they were speaking a different language because this was all new to me. So assuming, sometimes we get into our own language of what we know. I'm sure you experience that at work, at school, with people. So I've given them that feedback, and a lot of them have tweaked that. But the reason I'm bringing it up right now is I want to give you an authentic, like, this is what it was experience for me, and I want to inspire or influence or nudge you to ask questions when you don't understand, because you're probably not going to be the only one that doesn't know what they're talking about when they get going in their stuff. So don't be shy about asking questions. And Casey's saying he now includes a definition slide. Woohoo! Yeah, right? Because he learned the hard way. Some of us didn't know what a bearing was. A ball bearing? Yeah. For example, you saw my water filtration system, right? So when people started talking about water filtration systems, I didn't know what they were talking about. When they started talking about bladders, I thought, well, my bladder gets full after I drink water, but I think they were talking more about something like this. So there was a big disconnect for me, and it just took me longer to catch up to what they were talking about. So just raise your hand, ask questions. And what will happen in the Zoom class is, like in this example, Casey's on the chat monitoring, so he'll be able to answer those questions or to interrupt and answer those. And then somebody else will be when there's a speaker. So don't be afraid to ask. A couple of recommendations that I would make is read the book in advance of the session so that you have some knowledge floating around that they can make more sense out of, and keep up or read ahead. Because they can't go through the book line by line or chapter subtitle. So just write your questions down, ask them. You can ask them at the very beginning of class or during the session. I wish I would have written more questions down, because we're all beginners. So take your book with you wherever you go. On a road trip, well, you're not really going on, you can't go anywhere. Normally I tell people to take their book with them to the doctor's office or to lunch or whatever, but if you're like me, you might want to read some of those sections more than once. One of the lessons learned for me is, if you're going to go hiking with somebody, that they have some kind of knowledge. If they haven't taken this class, I would highly recommend that they read this book or something like it, so you have shared knowledge and a shared language to talk about things. So that's kind of an intro about the class. Now I want to talk about some wins and woes. Some of the things that I loved about my class, some of the wins were that all of it was just awesome. I soaked it up like a beginner, obviously, and I love the willingness of the instructors and the IMAC members. So IMAC is the Intermountain Alpine Club. It's a club in our community that I'll share a little bit more about, but that's who sponsors this. And the people from the community were shared experience, shared equipment, shared information. They talked about what they had tried. And what I loved is they immediately set up hikes, day hikes that we could go into, you know, right when we were in class. So I'd never been out to the, is this White Bluffs? I always forget the name. White Bluffs. I'd never been out there on a hike. So I love that they organized those for us so we could get to know each other right away. So depending upon what the requirements and the recommendations are, some hikes may be organized, some day hikes for, you know, maybe less than 10 people, if that's still the guidelines. So we don't have that set in stone yet. I also loved about the class is you'll get some information on nutrition, and I love getting the healthy food list, the recipe, the resources for finding out where to search online for healthier kinds of foods that you can take and maybe tastier, and how people make their own. And they set up a camp. I'm not sure if they're doing this or a modification of it this year, but we set up our camp down by the river in this picture here. And we had dinner, so we tried out stoves and tasted different dinner meals. So I think this might be one of the 2 in-person demos that we have, or it might be part of your gear shakedown. So that might be modified this year, but that was really helpful because we went around and people helped us set up our tents for the first time and learned how to use a jet boil for the first time. So that was pretty cool. What I wished I would have maybe paid more attention to is perhaps buying used equipment. Sorry, looking for my screen. Buying some used equipment, just because it's almost like you're trying things out for a while, and so you don't know if you really want that. The other good thing is I bought a lot from REI, which you can return for. You can go out and use it and try it, and you can still return it for a year. So that was pretty cool. If you don't already know about REI's policy, you can look that up. But buying some used equipment and would have saved me a lot of money, and also buying at REI was super helpful. The other thing that I learned was if you're going on a trail, mapping a trail has a lot of responsibilities, and to understand distances, right? Knowing what your group, like if you're the hike leader, you need to know what your group is capable of. So that's your responsibility. And also to figure out the hiking rate, which you'll learn, so that when you're on a hike with others, it's a pleasant experience. Because I've been on them when it's not so pleasant. When you have fast people and slow people, it's very difficult if they're both coming with their own agenda. Don't be surprised if you sign up to go on a hike and the leaders ask you a lot of questions, because they're just trying to determine your ability and gauge the group, right? So don't be surprised. I was kind of surprised at first, but they're just trying to figure that out. And then something I learned from Casey's map and compass class was to pay attention to those squiggly lines on the map, because they talk about the grade, and everything looks good on paper, right? But I wish I would have learned a little bit more about that right then. I had zero confidence I could find my way out of the wilderness. And another one that I wished I would have learned was more about bear behavior. I wish I would have read more about it. I think I would have been less stressed and less worried about it on a trip, and maybe been able to calm my best friend down because she was so worried about it as well. So those are some of I wish I would have paid more attention to and learned, or I could have learned. So the graduation backpack trip. Who wants to go on a trip when you're done? Who wants to go on the graduation trip? Put that in the chat so you guys can be active and it's not just me talking. Who wants to go? Me, yeah, right? Oh, this is so cool. We do. So the more people, there's more leaders this year, and so we can accommodate more people on the graduation trip. It is so freaking fun. It was such a highlight. If you can move mountains so you can be in a mountain, I would do it. It's very, very well organized. Pick me, yes. It's very well organized. We have super patient leaders. Casey was the backup sub plan B leader for our trip, and he was so patient, and we just tested every single thing out. You didn't have to do it perfect. Everybody pitched in. We had great food gathering. Everybody used their jet boil. We could have used each other's, but everybody tried their stove. Everybody brought their own food. Everybody helped everybody. And hiking by the water turned out to be one of my favorites. That I absolutely love it. So here's some lessons learned. If you wear red shoes, you're probably going to have a heavy pack. That's what I learned. Who's smiling? And I can only see Amber. Like, you get me, right? Yeah, it was heavy. We'll keep talking about the heavy pack. Poles. Somebody gave me their poles, and I used to see people on Badger and think, why are they carrying these poles? It's Badger. Like, what's the deal? But I understand now, they're training. But when I used the poles, I borrowed somebody's, they kept my hands from swelling. So I'm a big fan of poles, right? Yep. I see some heads nodding. Yeah, and don't forget to drink all the time and be prepared. Yeah, see those packs in the right-hand side? That is just 3 of us girls in one car. That's our packs for one night, right? So if you pack heavy when you travel on vacation, this is going to be an experience. Also, be prepared to see things. We had some pretty good company. Like, who knew dogs had, am I off a slide? I feel like I'm off a slide. Oh yeah, there's my poles there. Great company, a lot of fun. We had some great company on this trip. Who knew dogs had backpacks? I didn't know they had backpacks. Oh yeah, Casey's making the point. Everybody on the backpack took their own stuff. You couldn't really share because it was a graduation like test. I mean, I don't know that we took a test, but you know, you're trying all your stuff out. So yeah, good point. Who knew dogs had backpacks? I didn't know that, but look at this cute little dog that went with us. He had a backpack. Also, read about your location. Despite who organizes it, you should still know about the weather. You should still know about the grades. You should still know about the kinds of critters that are going to pop out, right? And this is our beetle yoga that showed up, and there's a snake over there with a rattle on it. And I really think you should read about snakes. There's a lot of old wives' tales, but yeah, taking a picture this close from a snake, I don't recommend that. Oh, our dogs pack in their food. I need one for my dog. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and some beautiful little critters and flowers. So setting up a camp, you can see in the upper left, everybody set their own camp up, right? Some of the lessons I learned is don't talk about cheesecake if you can't deliver. I had cheesecake with me, but everybody thought that I had some big cheesecake from Costco. But I did bring cheesecake. Something I learned is chocolate is really messy in the dark. And for the adults, flasks are optional, but often appreciated. And definitely have a campfire. That's a must if you're allowed. And it's even better if you have someone that can start and keep on going. That's an added bonus. As well as glow sticks. Glow sticks are an added bonus. And selfie sticks, I'm a big fan of, that's a necessity for me. And cameras with timers are an added bonus. So like Casey has, that was my attempt in the lower right-hand corner of me getting my name with the timer. Super fun trip, super cool people. And the bonus and best lesson was having snacks and beverages in the cooler planned by our trip coordinator, and was the icing on the cake when we got back to the parking lot. It was one day and one night, but it was a lot of work, so we celebrated. So that was winning. All right, now I'll talk about my adventures and misadventures after the class, how I put this into play. I have a new view of Badger, right? It's still a place to hike, but it's a training ground for learning how to carry a pack. I throw different weights in there. And this particular trip with these awesome ladies I met in the IMAC class was a training in how to get off the mountain really quick when lightning strikes and you didn't prepare for it. So that every hike is a training. I say every hike is a training. I also met some really cool new friends locally here and in the Happy Hikers Club in Walla Walla. They're also very active. So we had hikes and barbecues and wine tastings. So that friend thing that Casey mentioned turned out to be very, very true. And new goals that I have for my own family to turn them into backpacking little geeks is I had my grandkids learn how to help me set things up here and start to get to practice as well. And what about my best friend from Arizona and our PCT trip? Well, we didn't make it, but we did have 3 trips in Washington. And this was my first night of preparing and packing there. And I highly recommend a checklist. But I also highly recommend having a good friend like Casey help you shake it down. So I'm needing help, and I'll talk about that. But here's my backpacking list right here. And you can see that some of that mess is on the floor. And I've organized it to be like where it goes in my pack, so I don't have to try to figure that out each time that I pack it as well. I'm a little bit of a geek there, but I highly recommend you have a checklist, a purchase list, and then like I said, we'll talk about that in a little bit, and then have somebody help look through it to make sure that you don't have too much. So trip A that I planned with my girlfriend was a backpacking fail, but girlfriend time win. She flew in from Arizona, so you know how on that Allegiant flight, so our radius, we had to drive, hike, pack, or stay overnight, hike back, get back, so she could get back on the airplane. So unlike Casey, who said there's no bad weather, we must be fair weather people. So our trip turned into winery shopping and Edgefield, but we did have ice cream by the Bridge of Gods where Cheryl Strayed hiked and got married, actually. So that was our trip B, right? That trip B plan that we had. That was our plan B to trip A. So trip B was better. We still had to do the combo and make it to the airport, but we had more time. But it was also 4th of July weekend. So our trip included, we went to Packwood Lake and hiked in and camped and hiked out. And then we went to the Hoh River. So some of our wins at the Packwood is we got views that were not from the road. I could actually carry that pack. One of the lessons I learned is when you pack for a while is to use those straps that you'll see on your pack and move them around after like a mile or half an hour or whatever. I didn't think to do it, but my girlfriend came out and said, well, let me adjust this. And oh my gosh, the trip was so much better. So don't forget to pack for a while and definitely adjust. Those straps are so cool. Another win that I learned in the class is I threw my first bear bag up on some really not very strong trees, and it worked, so I was able to do that. We also got front row seats, if you will, for our tents, and the lesson learned is, and we also got the bugs with it. So the other thing that worked really well is food. We were really hungry by the time that it happened, and so that really worked well. That was a good win. We also met some really cool people and some pretty cool little critters. Some of my favorite things were in this picture, I carried a little solar powered lantern, which probably wouldn't be on Casey's list, but I thought it was pretty cool. Also learned that your little tiny mosquito repellent when your friends are freaking out of the mosquitoes isn't enough. I loved having a tent that would go sideways so I could look out, and it had an awning so I could just throw all my gear under there. That was another win. I would say some lessons that I learned on that trip is don't get your tooth pulled the day before. If you're gonna have mosquitoes, bring this stuff. And if you have crabby, nervous friends, bring 2 tents, because the tent by yourself to be peaceful and quiet at night was pretty cool. Don't do a cleanse right before a trip and not sleep and drink a lot of coffee the day you hike. That was not a good experience. Every little noise can make you crazy, so you have to decide in advance how crazy you want to get and tell your camping mates that how crazy, what your limit is, because saying, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that all night is just crazy making, right? Okay, moving on. It feels really weird. Yeah, group dynamics is so important, and that's that. I'm going to keep talking about that because this was a hard trip for me. On our way to the Hoh River, I took my friend to Lake Quinault, and we just needed a place to stay. So the cool lesson here is if you got packs, you don't have to get a hotel room. And when it's 4th of July, there aren't any available anyway. So all you got to do is find a dirt road, and it can lead to beautiful places. And it's not bad to stay by the porta potties, right? The one thing that lesson learned that could apply is even if you make reservations, because sometimes you go to a place where you camp in a parking lot or in a park, and then you pack in and stay overnight and pack and stay overnight and pack back out, but you need reservations for that place. And I would say don't just rely on the website for reservations, because we had some and they didn't work. So don't just rely. I would give them a phone call as well. And so we made it to Hoh River, which was beautiful. It was lush and green. It was by water. Another win. Like, this is when my backpacking class started to pay off. Like, this is so beautiful. This is what I wanted, to be outside. And there were a lot of rumors about bear sightings, but we didn't see any. But we did learn the bear song. Hey bear, hey bear, hey bear, hey bear. My selfie stick got to take great pictures, so I still think that's a win. There were so many good people on that trip, and we had a great spot that was better suited for one tent, and we were doing almost another graduation trip, if you will, trying both of our tents. So we shared it with somebody, and they threw up our bear bag in, you know, in the tree. And so it was really fun to meet. We talked to people all around the camp that was set up, and so we got to meet just all cool people from all different stories. And of course, we got a bigger mosquito repellent to go, because my girlfriend was freaking out. So we got a bigger repellent can that helps keep your buddy tame. And hiking by the water, again, for the win. Anybody go to a national park on a holiday? Has anybody? Somebody's laughing out loud. Yeah. So here's a lesson learned for a national park, and probably on a holiday, is don't expect the timing to work, because you may not, like, we just barely got in. We didn't have to wait in line, which was amazing, but the lines were long to get in. And then we got to go in and hike and camp overnight. And sometimes you don't get to have your campfire if you don't have somebody that can do that very well. So that was kind of a bummer. And here's the other thing. As newbies, ladies, you might relate to this. As newbies and ladies, we chose places where there was porta potties and bear wires. Bear, what do you call them, Casey? Bear, you know, where you can just hook your bear bag up.
Bear poles.
Bear poles. So we picked a place specifically where there was porta potties and bear poles, and we got there, looked all over, and these are the pictures of what was left. So Mother Nature had its own agenda. So don't count on porta potties or bear poles, ladies, because that might not happen. After a couple of stressful days hiking with my girlfriend, who was freaking out because she did not take this backpack class. Seriously, she was so stressed, and I was in my zen. We needed a little bit of time by the river and to enjoy a nice dinner in a quaint hotel. That's a killer way to end a backpacking trip. So it was a hot tub, just saying. And then plan C, the girlfriend and I, the third one we were going to take, is we were going to go to this really cool cabin near my hometown where I grew up in Republic, and you can reserve it. You hike in and stay overnight, which is not the same thing as a tent, but it was still pretty cool. And it turned out to be more like a van down by a river. You know what I'm talking about? Living in a van down by the river on my other best friend's orchard overlooking the Columbia River, which was cool, but always have a plan B. Always have a plan B. Maybe I'm just resilient all the time. Chris Farley, living on a van. Always have a plan B. We hiked the Hoodoo Canyon near Kettle Falls, which was beautiful. We camped on Curlew Lake. I saw a childhood friend. We went to the fair. We had great Mexican food. And here's a lesson learned. If you're planning a trip with somebody and you're taking vacation days off, and I don't know if we have vacation anymore or we're already on vacation all the time, for those of us that are new to working at home, I work from home all the time, but if you have vacation planned and you have to take paid time off, make sure you have friends that are going to commit, because if they pull out at the last second, it can really make your plans crazy. And if you've been banking on having a trip with these friends, yeah, confirm those dates and don't count on flakes. That was what I wrote down. No, so anyway, I hope that's helpful. They were good trips, but it's all lesson learning. But the PCT, well, that didn't happen. I am looking into the Pacific Northwest Trail that goes through Montana, Idaho, Washington. Has anybody heard of the Pacific Northwest Trail? Casey, have you heard of that? Pacific Northwest Trail. Becca, you have. Sarah?
Yeah, I've actually got a buddy at work that did part of it from, I think, Montana into Washington.
Oh, a documentary on Amazon Prime. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Oh, cool. Well, I have a classmate up in Washington, up there near Republic, that will pick you up, do your laundry, feed you, and return you to the trail. So I'm looking to do that. And it's in, if you want to look it up, Pacific Northwest Trail, and you can do parts of it as well. It goes from, I believe it goes from Montana, Idaho, Washington. So it's like east to west, where the Pacific coast is north to south. So anyway, that's kind of on my radar. But we didn't end up going on that, but it did spark an adventure streak in me and inspired me in some unexpected ways. I live in Canada for about a month every year where my daughter lives, and this was a beautiful trip to Cypress Hills, and it was very different landscape. We did not go backpacking, but we did go day hiking. And to be honest, the biggest win for me was watching my daughter play, watching my older daughter play outside. But I will tell you this, here's a lesson learned. I got there, I had my, I don't know if you can see it, I have a bear bell on that little bag. I stopped at the ranger station and said, you know, have you had any bear sightings? I've got my bear spray, I've got my bear bell, like, what do we need to know? And she goes, yeah, all of that's not going to help you much with cougars. So again, calling ahead, finding out what the critters are around where you're going is really smart. And the bear bell and the bear song doesn't really work when you're in cougar country, I guess. That was my lesson learned, which was a good lesson, right? Again, probably the best part was sharing experiences with my family and inspiring them and seeing them light up about getting outside more. On the way home, I do what I call a Danette retreat every year, and somewhere in Montana. And this was the year I was going to hike in Glacier to the Sperry Chalet, but it was on fire that year. So I went to, I think it's called Two Medicine, different part of the Glacier Park, but it was closed due to snow. So I don't give up. I'm not a giver upper. I always have a plan B. So I went to what's it called, Casey? Whitefish Mountain Resort now, which was an amazing, just another day hike. It was just so beautiful. The foliage was beautiful. I had a lot of bear fear because they had told me they had a lot of sightings of bears. So I practiced my bear song a lot. I took a lot of great pictures, selfie stick for the win again. I met some really cool people and heard some awesome stories. And you've heard the saying, here's your sign. Well, this is a lesson learned. When you see all the signs for the trail that you're going to hike in a pile at the base, you should probably know it's not going to be a well-marked trail, which means the map and compass probably should have come in a lot more handy. So maybe that's a bit of warning season at the end of a season that they will remove these trail signs. But hindsight tells me, talk to people before you go. It'd be really smart to go with someone else. Also, really smart to learn map and compass skills, and also be really prepared for snow conditions and have a plan if you see fire. I saw fire, and later I learned it was controlled burn, but it didn't take me very long to figure out what the fastest route down was. Another trip that I took was to Fernie, BC. So beautiful. I think it's my favorite trip so far. I didn't get to backpack again, but it's that inspiration from this class that paid off. I added to my skills how to cross a stream with the baby and gave my kids a Christmas gift. I changed how I do gifts. This class inspired me how I do gifts, and I don't give gifts anymore. I give experiences to my kids. So I gave them a weekend hiking adventure trip, and now that's kind of what we do now for gifts. So in the last couple of years, I was thinking, where do I go? My other experiences were a little bit challenging with that girlfriend. I don't really want to go to alone. Who can I go with? And enter the IMAC, right? IMAC, Casey, I'm going to go off real quick and show this IMAC real quick. So IMAC is the Intermountain, what did I say? I lost it. Intermountain Alpine Club. Here's the website. And if you guys want to find trips, here's the event calendar. So it tells you this will probably change as things go, but there's an event calendar on IMAC's website that will tell you the trip, what it is. This is a snowshoe cross country, and it tells you, in the hiking ones, it tells you kind of what kind of hike it is, if it's all day, if it's overnight, how long, that kind of thing. And if you're not a member already, there's a membership on here about us. Just go to membership and you can see the benefits and join. I'm not doing a pitch for them, but it's only, well, I don't know what it is for couples, but you can sign up here from 10 to 20 bucks, I think. So the cool thing about that, and why I bring that up, is if you're somebody that doesn't want to go by yourself and you're in this class alone and you want to go with people who are trained from this class or in this circle of people in our community, then you can find people on IMAC. Here's the website. And Casey, can you drop it in the chat for people? I know that some of the events were canceled, but they'll pick back up, and you want to kind of on the Victoria on the trip, it'll tell you what the experience level is, and they have a rating for if it's a 1 hike, 2 hike. They have something called TIE, T-I-E, take it easy hikes that are for beginners. So we'll be talking more about that, and you can just cruise around on their website a lot to find out some of that information. But last year I took what I thought was going to be my last backpacking trip. I don't know if I've told this to Casey, but I thought it was going to be my last trip. We hiked, I went with Iman. I found these people. We went to the Eagle Cap Wilderness, and it was super, super hard and uncomfortable for me. It was not a joyful experience. I'm the type of person that I'll have fun wherever I go, but my mind was saying, this is not fun. I don't want to do this. So lessons learned: first, I was way out of shape for what I normally am. Second is my pack was way too heavy. And third, whoever was leading was marching like they had to get to base camp. And I like to see what is around me. That's why I'm outside. I want to see the beautiful stuff. So I was struggling trying to keep up. And that's not a bad thing that they wanted to march. It's just knowing your leader and then having people that are in the back that want to do, having somebody in the back that will stay with the people who are in the back. So I wasn't in a hurry, and luckily the camp guy or the leader behind me, Dwight, wasn't in a hurry. So it was a beautiful experience, but it was also a wake-up call about staying in shape, a wake-up call about I need help with packing. And there was a lady, and I can't remember her name, she's in that picture, who went through her pack and showed me exactly what she had, because she experienced the same thing, had taken a class, had a huge list of what to bring from the book, from the class, everybody that you read and see and read online. So she said she would help me do a gear shakedown, and I'm hoping Casey will help me do one too. So it was really a rough trip, and the whole time I was trying to keep up, and it was a mental battle. And what I learned is, just like I ride motorcycles, and just like on motorcycles, you got to ride your own ride, you got to hike your own hike. It has to be joyful for you. It has to be you have to enjoy it, or you won't do it. So pick good people to hike with. In the end, though, I decided to keep taking a hike. I love being outside. I'm pretty good at plan B, but I do have some work to do to get in shape and to get help with that pack and figure out some foods. And I need to improve on my campfire and bear song or cougar song or flaky friends or whatever. But this class was so helpful. And I think that all these unexpected bonuses in terms of packing my backpack inspired me to do a few other things. Like I Marie Kondoed my closet. I took trips to London here, and I went to India to see the Taj Mahal, and I got to go to Bali. And this was all after taking the class. I think it just inspired some amazing adventure part of me that had been latent for quite a while, I guess. Awesome, had some new awesome friends, went hiking, road trips, kayaking, paddleboarding. And like I said, everything's changed with my family. We've gone camping. They all have these fun, weird hiking sticks, but we've gone snow skiing, we've gone camping. I've learned how to start a fire, so grandma for the win. And our life has kind of changed as a family as a result of that class. And I still wear red shoes, but now I want to put my now third pair of hiking shoes on a lot more often. And so I'm super grateful and humbled for being able to take that IMAC class, and for all the leaders, the instructors, the experience, the backpacking. I really think that it changed my life, and maybe it saved my life that year. And I'm inspired to get out, to unplug, and to get that grounding, that centering, that healing, inspiration, whatever it is that you get from being outside. And I hope the class impacts you in your own meaningful way. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Casey. I hope this was helpful for you. Did I stop sharing?
Thank you very much, Danette. Much appreciated. That's all. Let's take some time to stand up, do a little stretch or something. We've been going for about an hour. We've shortened classes this year from 2 hours to 90 minutes. And we kind of did that on purpose, because this is a lot of information to take down all at once. But one of the things that I want to emphasize is what Danette said earlier, is hike your own hike. There's no right way to backpack. There are some wrong things to do, especially when it comes to like leave no trace and, violating Forest Service regulations and stuff like that. but there's no right one way perfect answer. One of the reasons we've asked so many different instructors to come in and to present their side is so that everybody has different systems, different ways, different philosophies about how they go. And so we're trying to present to you an entire broad range of different backpacking styles so that you can pick what works for you.